Howdy, Dr. Big Ed, your guitar pedal shrink, back again. We're going to talk about fuzz. What the fuzz is going on, man? All right, a lot of people know I like fuzz. All right, I'm a fuzz head. I'm Fuzz Ed. I get it. I've played a lot of fuzzes in my time. I have found in the last few years that some of my free improvisation friends in London are not so fuzz crazy. I understand why. It's because we're playing with a big ensemble. It tends to take over things. However, that also plays into some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. So, my favorite fuzzes. And I want to hear what your favorite fuzzes is. What your favorite fuzzes are. What they is. And let's talk about some issues you may be having, because there are some things with fuzz that are kind of important. And all fuzzes aren't my jam, okay? Like, for instance, I like muffs, but they're really tricky to me because A, they don't roll off, which we'll talk about with other fuzzes some more, which would be really helpful. And I get it, that's not what they do, but they don't roll off. They're very limited in what they do. What they do is awesome. So I get it, but I don't love muffs. I like them. The few that I really, really dig is the, the Tone Brewery Royal Beaver. That thing's off the hook. Like, yeah, is that Tone Brewery? Yeah, the Royal Beaver, anyway. That one's fantastic. The 314 by Psionic is really, really good. It's another one of my friend Henry Kaiser's favorites. I love the Bloody Get by Champion Lecky, which is more of a rough Russian muff, but sort of not. That's a misconception in my mind, because when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, I can hear the DNA, but that's not really a Russian muff, which is good, because it's not limited. It's much broader, it's much cooler. And the other muff, there's two others I really love the Della Riva by Wren and Cuff. That one is pretty sick. So those are basically my main ones. I've heard a couple other I like, but again, it's not my favorite. So what are my favorites? Well, boss tones, man. A really, really good boss tone. Like Monster Piece Pedals makes the Angry Dick 2000, the new version. I liked the old version, seriously, because that one had the oscillation that some people associate with boss tones, but that might be because of the schematic was improperly put up at some point that really wasn't part of the original one, or not the ones that you heard early on. There's the California version and the Nashville version, and some people it's arguable whether it had the oscillation. But I like the oscillation one. But I really, really, really like the Angry Dick 2000 V2, where it has the California Nashville switch, so you could get either one. Flippin' fantastic. Every boss tone, the barefoot boss horn, crazy good pedal. I mean, oh my God, and that one has a few more knobs than some of the other boss tones. Fantastic. So I love boss tones. I love buzz arounds and dizzy tones. Now, buzz around is generally associated with Robert Fripp, right? Most people know that. Dizzy tone is a more cutting version, like you needed a more cutting version than a buzz around, but it's got a little less woof than a buzz around, is the dizzy tone. And Super Electric in Ireland makes a killer version of the dizzy tone for not a whole lot of coin. In fact, Super Electric dude, Jimmy Behan, call him up. Buy him a pint. Because that guy, he really has his game going on. Like, he made a Selmer buzz tone for me, which is not a Boss tone. A lot of people think it is. It's not. They get lumped together. But he made me an authentic creation of a Selmer buzz tone, the Sid Barrett pedal. Unreal. Actually runs at 6 volts. And you have to use like AAA batteries to get that. It's no 9-volt supply, power supply. You can't use a power supply with it, but it's got an on-off switch, which also Monsterpiece does a lot on their pedals. So the battery on-off, if you want to use a battery. So dizzy tones, like if it was up to me and I was playing and producing a record, excuse me, I would be using dizzy tones because they rip, they cut, they can be massive. Buzz tones are okay. I have a couple buzz tones that are fantastic. But in general, dizzy tones cut through the mix a little bit better and are just awesome. And the frequency response. Now I've got an incredible mini buzz around dizzy tone made by my buddy Dave, who's one of the geniuses behind Function Effects. It's called the Hive Mind. Go look him up. He's Pick Dropper, at Pick Dropper on Instagram and the Gear page and other places. That guy, Dave, he makes the craziest, he makes amazing pedals for Function Effects, but the best mini pedals. And he made me a Buzzy Dizzy Mini called the Hive Mind, and other people have started to get hip to it. So buzz arounds, dizzy tones. I've had the Jextel X dizzy tones. They're good. I think they're overpriced, but they're really good. But you know, guys like Richard at Monsterpiece and Jimmy Behan at Super Electric will make you one killer for like less than half the price. So as far as fuzz and how I feel it should sit in the mix, buzz arounds, dizzy tones, either way, they're my favorite. Boss tones, buzz arounds, dizzy tones. Boss tones are a lot thicker, so they're not going to sit in the mix as well, but they're still great depending on how you use them. Fuzz faces, I'm not a big fan of fuzz faces. Just not. They're cool. Hendrix did great with them. You're not Hendrix. I'm not Hendrix. You know what I mean? They just, and the one good thing that fuzz faces do is they roll off great. They're amazing to roll off. So I love that about them. So you could use them as like your overdrive. You put it on, you roll off about 6 or 7, have it as your bass crunchy sound, and then open it up. But they're not going to give you the most textured, awesome experience in my. And I have some great ones. I have a Paul Trombetta feeder bone, which is one side is his mini bone and the other side is his fuzz face. And that is one of the best fuzz faces I've ever heard. I mean, it's just off the charts. And Richard at Monsterpiece makes one called the PMP Deluxe, by far the best fuzz face I've ever heard. And more versatile too. I recorded a couple albums with that, in fact, and people were like, oh, what was that sound? And I was like, I don't know, let me go look at the pictures, and it turned out to be that. So both of those pedals were on a record where people complimented my guitar tones. So both of those guys really know what they're doing. Paul Trombetta, fantastic. And in fact, a mini bone that started his, kind of renown was based off a Jordan Boss tone. He just took it that much further. He made it into, the trombone singing, octavey, amazing thing that he did. Big fan of Paul's. So fuzz faces I'm not so crazy about. I do love tone benders. Why? Because again, they record freaking awesome. Like, awesome. That's why so many classic recordings have tone benders, right? Right. You go, whoa, what was that sound? Oh, it was a tone bender, okay? And I'm not going to get into rats because those are distortion. They're not really fuzz. I know there's a lot of rats on recordings, and it's a beautiful thing. But tone benders, right? And who makes the best tone bender? I'm sorry to tell you, it's fairly inarguable in my opinion, but Tim at Faceless Effects in the UK, that guy, he's next level when it comes to tone benders. He also made me a Fox tone octave fuzz that was ridiculous too, like ridiculous. And I've played many of his other fuzzes. I mean, that guy's dialed in, but particularly his tone benders. The Desad V2, which I just got a new one about a year ago. I had the first version, which was called the Marquis, but now it's called the Desad version 2. I mean, that thing goes so far beyond a tone bender that it's like 3 or 4 pedals in one. But tone benders record really, really well. So those are some of my faves, likes off the top of my head. One other builder I want to mention, I've mentioned Tom before, but Tom Cram at Spiral Electric. Tom really, really is another guy who's dialed in. He uses the Nanolog technology in some of his pedals, if not all, but most. I'm a real fan of the Nanolog. Why? Because that setting, and he gives you options. He'll give you germanium, Nanolog, and silicon. But the Nanolog, to me, is much less compressed, and thus, again, records better. So to me, how a fuzz records has a lot to do with its usefulness to me. I want to hear what you think. Tell me below. Do all that subscribe crap, like, subscribe, whatever. Like I care. Some guy was like, oh, you get more subscriptions if you did. I don't care. I'm here to help you and to have an exchange back and forth, right? Right. So let's do that. Tell me about your favorite fuzzes, any questions you have. Bias is a big thing in fuzzes, but it can be overused and underused. And we can talk about that. Too many knobs on a fuzz can be an issue, seriously. Henry Kaiser's like, if it's got more than 2 knobs, I don't want it. It's pretty funny. So tell me what you think. Ask away, and we'll try to get to the bottom of it. I'm sure I missed stuff. But anyway, till next time, see ya. Peace.